Always playing these Esper decks with Lingering Souls. And he's playing against Austin Fritz, who we saw earlier. Austin is playing Maverick. And before we saw Austin squeak one out against a Rug Delver opponent who made some key mistakes in games 2 and 3 that let Austin steal the match.
Well, he's put it to good use, considering he's still in top 8 contention. Joe's always playing these Esper Stoneblade style decks at Opens. He used to play a lot of Dead Guy Ale, and he added the blue, and he hasn't gone back since. So it's not really a surprise to see him here playing it. His version is a little different from what you might conventionally expect compared to Matt Hoey, whom you saw earlier. Joe sticks with Dark Confidants and a little more aggressive game plan, whereas Hoey's more all about Stoneforge Mystic and playing the control game.
Yeah, Hoey is basically just splashing for some discard spells, whereas Joe is a real 3-color deck.
Very much so.
So, interesting to see how this goes. It looks like Austin Fritz is going to be mulliganing here. And Joe, looking to be on the play, is going to keep his opener.
Joe actually talked with Matt a lot before the event, interestingly. They were staying together, filling out their deck list and comparing, and they wound up with very, very different lists, but tried to merge some of the elements from them. And you can see a lot of the similarities. Joe has 4 discard spells in the main deck, although he chose to split his with Inquisitions and Thoughtseizes, and I think 2 and 2. I don't think that's the same split Matt ran, although I'm not 100%.
I think Matt ran 2-1 split. We see Matt Hoey there standing, so I suppose the tournament did not go well for him.
Actually, he just finished drawing into top 8, I'm pretty sure.
Well done, Matt Hoey.
Yeah, Matt Hoey off to a straight 6-0 start, and now he's just double drawing his way into top 8. Although one of the top, there were only 3 undefeateds, so could get a little hairy for somebody in the last round, but they will very likely still just be in even if they lose. Just on the high tiebreakers from starting off undefeated.
Now there's a Rug Delver player at 6-0.
Yep.
Looking to win his winning in, and if he's able to win this match, it'll be 7-0, then with a draw in round 8 of the Swiss, he can guarantee himself the play throughout the entirety of the top 8, which is huge for a deck like Rug Delver. Oh, looks like we're getting into things. So Austin Fritz led things off with a turn 1 Horizon Canopy into Mother of Runes, and Joe Bernal has a Flood Strand here, which he's going to use to grab a basic Plains, playing around Wasteland here. Joe presumably announcing his Swords to Plowshares.
Yep. Mom's one of the more important cards in the matchup. It lets you defend your future creatures from Swords to Plowshares, and against Joe's deck, it'll even shut down a lot of his ground pounders.
I mean, Joe has a lot of tokens, so he's probably going to get into situations where he's going to need to double block or sometimes triple or quadruple block certain creatures that Austin has. So with the Mother of Runes in play, it makes combat almost impossible for Joe to deal with.
And Joe's big edge, Umezawa's Jitte, is also much harder to trigger. Read impossible, basically, with the Mother of Runes in play. Scavenging Ooze for Austin is not quite the card that it is in many other matchups, but still relevant. Joe does have stuff, Lingering Souls.
He has 4 Snapcasters too.
He has Snapcaster Mages. It's tough to actually get.
It's good.
Ooh, that was awkward. Those moments, but
Austin gets a glimpse at a Thoughtseize and a Spell Pierce.
He knows that those cards are not in Joe's hand unless he runs more than one of them.
Yeah, but those cards aren't very good against Austin.
No, very poor.
Thoughtseize is fine. The Spell Pierce, not so much.
Yeah. Thoughtseize is getting worse by the minute. It's the sort of card you really want to play before the Knight of the Reliquary comes down, as opposed to after.
So the Stoneforge Mystic here, Joe Bernal, probably going to get grab Batterskull.
I imagine.
No, decides to go with Umezawa's Jitte, and I like that. I think that depending on the number of guys he has, if he has a Lingering Souls in his hand, then grabbing the Umezawa's Jitte is definitely right.
The Jitte is a lot worse on the draw than it is on the play, especially in these matchups. Your opponent can just start attacking you, force you to block before you actually get your feet underneath you, especially with Knight of the Reliquary being able to access something like Maze of Ith.
Austin Fritz going to send that Scavenging Ooze into the red zone for 2 damage.
Fearless.
And let's see what he has for his second main phase. Does he have a 3rd land? It looks like he has a Maze of Ith.
And an Arbor.
Maze of Ith is going to be pretty good against Joe Bernal's Umezawa's Jitte.
Yep.
Does Joe play any number of Wasteland? It doesn't look like he does.
Nope, he doesn't have a direct answer to the Maze of Ith. He can, however, shift his tokens around and have them wearing the Jitte on defense, which will make it really hard for Austin to even attack. So they can each make each other jump through a lot of hoops, basically. Swords to Plowshares removes the Stoneforge Mystic. Not a lot of targets for that card against most Esper Stoneblade decks, but if Austin's not familiar with Joe's list, he might find himself surprised by a Dark Confidant that lives a little longer than it should.
Austin he doesn't really have anything ever to do on opponents' turns other than Swords to Plowshares.
And
and ooze activations. But what I was saying was, I think, it's usually better to use that Scavenging Ooze during your main phase to remove that Swords to Plowshares, so that Joe can't just play an island and then Snapcaster the sword back.
That's fair.
Right,
He would have to wait till his own turn to go for that play if that was something he wanted to do, just because the Arbor has Summoning Sickness.
Well, you just tap his Farce.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, if he tries to remove the swords during the end step, he can Snapcaster in response. He doesn't, since he doesn't have 2 green, he can't get the swords still.
If he just did it during his main phase,
yeah, it's just gone.
Safe.
Yeah.
Swords Plowshares being removed.
Looks like Joe doesn't have a 3rd land anyway, so that point's going to be moot for now. No 3rd land, and that means he's on no blue.
Yeah, and he sacrificed 2 fetch lands, so decided to get those basics to play around wastelands, but it's looking like that might hurt him a lot here.
The order in which he played his lands is also interesting because he led the Flooded Strand, so that kind of implies he might have kept just the Flooded Strand as his only land, because I would think you crack the Marsh Flats before the Flooded Strand pretty much all the time, right?
I mean, usually I would crack if I'm fetching for basics. I don't know, I think it's pretty dependent on your hand. But
if we're fetching plains,
right, yeah.
I feel like, yeah, unless he hasn't played a black spell yet, so we don't really have a reason for the swamp. We can assume he has some, but and there's the Mazavith. Drew a Tundra.
Ooh, Tundra. That's a very nice card for Joe.
Good one for Joe. Interestingly, now that he has 2 pieces of equipment, the Mazavith is a lot less effective.
Yep.
Joe can start getting either 4-life or Jade counters, and both of those are real dismal for Austin's chances. However, it won't take a lot of disruption on Austin's part to break that up.
And I mean, that's a pretty mana-hungry plan from Joe, so...
Won't take much. A Pride Mage here, a random Knight of the Reliquary there. I think we can safely say that Knight of the Reliquary is not available to Austin just yet. Oh!
Ooh, and
Green Sun's
Joe
in for 3. Garrick Relentless! Whoa!
Yeah, Joe's gonna Spell Pierce this.
Yep, that's lucky for Joe, because that card usually rots.
Yep.
Man. Garrick Relentless, not a card you see in a lot of Maverick lists. It doesn't interact especially well with the Thalias the deck is known for playing, but in the mirror, the Garrick is probably pretty good, whereas the Thalia is pretty poor. You're just trading Thalias a lot of the time, I imagine.
So there we see a wild MC Hammer attached to that Batterskull.
Appropriate for a germ, I'd say. Well, I imagine Joe is going to tap Mazavith here with his Batterskull, probably. Swords first, so I'm going to start getting into a point of damage with our Stoneforge Mystic too then, unless we hold it open for the Jitte. Interesting choice.
Joe in really solid control of this game now with that Scavenging Ooze off the table. Joe has a Batterskull on the table, he has a Jitte in hand, and he has a Snapcaster to flash back that Swords to Plowshares.
Looks like he's also got a Jace for when he finds a second blue source.
So Joe solidly in the lead here. If he had, man, he plays Jace and he fetched up basic plains, basic swamp.
I think it's reasonable to say that he probably didn't have the Jace in his hand when he went playing swamp here. Fetch land. Oh, is that a fetch land? I think it is. Oh, we're gonna pick up Jitte now. Both of our guys are sweet, and we're sending both. Austin probably just has to maze the Mystic here.
Yeah.
4 life's a lot easier to beat than 4 life or whatever else you want to do. Yep.
Is he gonna get hit for 4 here?
Bloodstrand. I think Joe's also riding on a Brainstorm, so I imagine he's planning to Brainstorm during the end step, set up for that Jace on the next turn.
And I mean, that Jace is just going to be free and clear to start Fate Sealing.
Didn't even need it. Austin is content to fold from this position.
Yeah, Austin's hand not very good there. And Joe, despite missing that 3rd land drop, was able to just take that game down pretty easily.
Yeah, it happens sometimes when your cards are Stoneforge Mystic, which is pretty much all he needed to do.
Yeah, now post-board, Austin has some nice ones here. He has Linvala, Keeper of Silence, which is, he's probably expecting cards like Vendilion Click, and Linvala matches up well against those. Linvala also decent against Stoneforge Mystic. Thrun the Last Troll is another card he might bring in here. Path Exiles is probably good. Although, I mean, Joe Stick's pretty mana hungry, but I don't know if Austin knows about cards like Lingering Souls and whatnot.
Yeah, it's hard to know. It's hard to know how Austin's going to sideboard because he's not facing an opponent he should be used to. Like, this is a very different kind of Stoneforge Mystic deck than most of the ones in the room.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely going to bring in his Grip. It's the one card we can absolutely count on him bringing.
Pretty sure.
Here. Joe Bernal, on the other hand, has access to a Path Exile, Diabolic Edict, 2 Perish. Those are going to be huge here. An Engineered Explosives, an Oblivion Ring, and I think that's all he's going to bring in here.
It's probable. I could see if he had Trinket Mages, which is a card he was considering playing, maybe a Nihil Spellbomb because it turns the Knight into a very tiny man. But I don't imagine he'll be bringing them in since he decided not to make room for Trinket Mage. Trinket Mage is a pet card of Matt Hoey's, and it was one of their bone of contentions in building their decks. I think Matt wound up running one still. But Joe was
I don't
sad
think
to see Trinket Mage on the sideline. I don't know if it's good or not. I honestly don't play the archetype enough. I know that Matt's a fan. It worked for him at the St. Louis Open, and it has thus far apparently worked for him here. So
yeah,
it's hard for me to evaluate. I'm not impressed on the merits of just the idea of this Grey Ogre that tutors for some really situational cards. But if it's working out, it's working out. Hard to argue with results. Actually, that's not true. It's really easy to argue with anything, but it's hard to win.
Players in the draft challenge, your pairings for round 2 are now posted. Once again, draft challenge competitors, your pairings for round 2 are now posted next to the Garuk banner.
Joe's taking a while to sideboard. He has a lot of singletons. He probably is trying to decide, man, is Path better than Diabolic Edict? Do I want this Oblivion Ring? I'm curious what he's siding out. The Spell Piercers seem like the most likely candidate right off the bat.
Yeah, you can expect those to come out. Zealous Persecution's insane here.
Yeah, it's very good.
His discard spells are kind of bad against Austin.
Probably Liliana the Veil, and then I imagine the Thought Seizes, but maybe keep the Inquisitions. It's kind of what I'm feeling.
I mean, I like Liliana Veil here, I think.
You do?
Right?
I don't know.
It's like...
Austin's got so many little idiots. You can just throw one of those away.
It doesn't matter. I mean, it's always like going to be at least a 1-for-1. And there's so many situations, especially with like Lingering Souls, where you can get a pretty big advantage out of it.
I don't know. I'm not a big fan of a sorcery speed 1-for-1 at 3 mana in Legacy. And I agree the +1's kind of handy with Lingering Souls, but just casting a Lingering Souls is going to be better than casting a Liliana and discarding a Lingering Souls a lot of the time, I think. Depends on how much you value the blockers on the table, the attackers on the table.
I mean, I think on the play, I think Liliana definitely stays good. On the draw, I could make him out.
It's also really rough against his Thalias. Like, Joe actually can not care that much about a Thalia with his normal strategy. Like, it's annoying, but he can win through it. But it makes it a little harder if you're filling your deck with more cards like that.
Yeah, I can see him taking out Jace, the discard spells, and Spell Pierces. That's too many cards to take out even. So...
He's got
I
a
think
mix
discard
of
spells and Spell Piercers come out before the Lilianas come out.
It's reasonable.
And he'll probably bring in Relic of Runitus too, just because it's really strong against so many different cards that Austin has in his deck here.
I think I go for the Nihil Spellbombs before the Relic, right? Because you want to keep your graveyard for the snaps and I guess theoretically Lingering Souls.
You think so?
I kind of think so, yeah. I mean, you have to have a mana up to get the cantrip either way. It's just a specific color.
It's fair.
Yeah, I'm not sure about those. I like Nile Spellbomb more than most. For any of you listening, it's one of my pet cards. Commander, probably play that card more than any other card in my entire deck. Basic Forest and Nile Spellbomb in Stern competition for a most played card.
Basic Forest there from Austin Fritz, and no turn 1 play.
Looks like Joe did bring in that die blockade, and he did bring in Relic.
Does have the Relic of Progenitus here.
Yeah, pretty much.
Austin Fritz with that Crossing Grip in his opening hand. Here's turn 2 Thalia, quite good in this matchup. And a Polluted Delta from Joe. He's just going to pass the turn. Oh, no. It looked like that was a hand motion to pass the turn, but I could be mistaken. It could be an announcement of something.
Perhaps crack Polluted Delta.
Yes.
It'll be interesting to see what land Joe fetches here. I think he just drew the Delta, so I don't really have a good idea on the composition of his hand. But he's getting a scrub land. Okay. And there's a Stoneforge Mystic.
It's pretty good. It matches up very well against that Thalia. And with the first striker in play, but still grabbing Mizao's Jitte.
One of the interesting things about Joe's list is it does have 2 Jittes, which a lot of lists only run 1. So if he can convince Austin to grip this one, he might not be ready for another one.
Definitely true. And, I mean, imagine Austin's going to want a Crossing Grip Mizao's Jitte if it's ever going to connect.
Also, having his own Jitte can keep Austin from deploying one, which is not insignificant, especially in this position where Austin's going to hit 4 mana before Joe can equip a Jitte, assuming Austin doesn't miss land drops.
Alright, so Austin, it does look like he has
Goes
and
for the
waste
white source.
Going to take out that white source. And definitely the right play there. This Cavern of Souls, which is named Human, is going to play a Mother of Runes. Relic of Progenitus, going to remove that wasteland from the game. Shrink the potential knight that could come down on turn 4.
Got another Delta. Joe definitely has a Lingering Souls and a Diabolic Edict in his hand, not to mention the Jitte Search for and a Swords to Plowshares that we can see now.
And another Delta here from Joe.
It's awkward for Joe because he's kind of forced to blow the swords now or forever hold his peace with Mother of Runes out there.
Yeah.
I can't imagine he's pleased about that.
Going to tap out for Swords to Plowshares on Mother of Runes.
So Joe grabbed the Tundra this time. So he wanted to make sure he had black mana no matter what the first time he searched. But this time he's content to let it go.
Yeah, does he only has 1 Scrubland in his deck, so I think Scrubland is probably the optimal land, but forced to grab a Tundra based on the fact that he only had 1 Scrubland in his deck. Savannah coming down for Austin Fritz, leaving 3 mana open, and he's going to be able to Crossing Grip something here if he needs to.
Relic of Progenitus. Got it. Inquisition. Ooh. Well, there's a Thalia in play. We need to tap another land there.
Yeah.
Yep. Alright. Joe's probably thinking, I don't know if I'd have done this if I had to tap 2 lands.
This seems significantly worse.
If we get to Inquisition and then Mystic, it seems way better.
So Austin reveals Crossing Grip, Swords to Plowshares, and a second copy of Thalia. Guardian of Thraben.
Discarding the Thalia.
Ooh, interesting choice.
With both the swords and the grip there, Joe knows he's not going to be getting in a Jitte hit anytime soon. So he really just has to match wits with this Thalia for a little while.
Yeah, I mean, able to take out that second Thalia, so once he's able to Edict, he'll be okay.
Still needs a third land to make that happen, though.
It'd be really nice if Austin was able to find another reliquary here. I believe he does have the Greenson Zenith.
Yep, but because of his own Thalia, he will not be able to cast it for night.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. He
So
can
he's
find
gonna need a 5th land.
something good. I mean, there are other options. Yeah. Any of those cards are pretty reasonable in this position. Your opponent's mana screwed. They can't do a lot.
Yeah, he could even grab a Pride Mage, but he probably
Yeah,
would want to do
I
that
think that's
pre-combat.
fine. He may be content to just hold, though. No, we're going in for
Green
2.
Sun for 2.
Well, if we did it post-combat, we can assume it's probably not going to be a Pride Mage.
Yeah, I guess it's Scavenging Ooze.
Scavenging Ooze is a strong contender. Can't really think of anything else. Scrub Ranger is not really appropriate, assuming it's even still in our deck.
I think Pride
Fauna
Mage
Shaman
just
could
been
be,
discarded. Yeah, Fauna Shaman could definitely be.
Worthwhile.
Contender,
No,
yeah.
getting the Ooze.
Yeah,
Seems fine.
yeah, I mean, Scavenging Ooze is such a powerful card.
That's going to remove a lot of the incentive for Joe to keep that relic for value. He's mana screwed, needs to find a land. If he doesn't find one in his draw step, he may just be required to pop the relic.
Yep, so.
What was that we picked up? We halted a little on it.
I don't know.
Might have been a Parish. Can't see that well.
Parish is going to be hard to cast this game. At least in the near future.
Can't really tell what he's gripping there. It looks like a black card. Not really sure.
Joe's probably going to cash in this relic.
Yeah. Is indeed forced. That didn't really pan out for him there.
No, not at all.
Well, after investing 2 mana, he managed to draw a card on turn 5 or something like that.
So Joe going to 8 here after Austin's attack.
And in trouble.
Austin with a Noble Hierarch.
I have a feeling it will resolve.
One might expect it to.
Stoneforge Mystic. It's a Liliana the Veil, I believe, is the black card he drew. So that's uncastable, whether he finds a third land or not.
Yeah,
At this point, we know that he didn't.
Before I can do anything about that.
Austin's
Batterskull.
still rocking 2 solutions to Batterskull, so that's not going to cut it.
And the nice part about Crossing Grip is that even if your Batterskulling opponent has the mana returned to their hand, they're not going to be able to, thanks to Split Second.
Discarding Snapcaster Mage to his cleanup step, he has awkwardly been forced to feed the Ooze. I don't know if I like feeding the Ooze here. Like, I would be fine double blocking the Ooze if there are no creatures in play when he swings with both creatures. So that forces him to lose a point of damage by just sending one of the guys with Exalted. But now that the Snapcaster's there, he can just swing. The other play Joe can make is double blocking Thalia, which is, I guess, okay, but I'm just curious. Doesn't do any of those things. I feel like the double block on Thalia is fine, right? I mean, it forces your opponent to play the swords. You have to kill those creatures anyway, though.
Scavenging Ooze going to become a 3/3 here. Joe falling down to 3, assuming he's taking this damage.
He's in bad shape. Actually, I can't think of anything he can do at this point. Maybe draw Caracas Thalia after attackers, and then drop in the Batterskull after chump blocking. Mazavith kind of shuts off his ability to gain life on the attack, though. That play really just makes him dead a turn later, more than anything else. And it also involves him just peeling his one of Caracas, so.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what Joe's game plan has to be here. He needs to run some lands in a row, but at this point, it's getting late.
Yeah. He's on 8 cards as he passed the turn, too, I think. I may have miscounted that, but... He could have 9 cards and he's not winning this game, to be totally fair.
Yeah, that's
Can't
8.
tell. That is 8? Yeah. Lingering Souls value! I'm certain that we'll untap with that. Never been so sure of anything in my entire life. Austin attacks.
Yep. And Joe is going to...
The double blocks on Thalia don't work with Mazavith on the field anymore, so... He's just going to block, drop in the Batter Skull. The Chitte. Alright. I'm interested. Let's see where this goes.
So, Austin, probably going to remove this Lingering Souls before it becomes Joe's turn.
Alright. Island. Game over. Right? Like now he wins? Nope. Okay.
Yeah.
Rats.
And that's it. So we're going to game 3 here. Joe, having mana problems again. We've seen Joe have a lot of mana problems this tournament.
Yeah, he really got strangled by Thalia there. She's a backbreaker.
Yeah, quite good. That card works out really well a lot of the time.
Thalia is most known for her role in these Maverick decks, but she's also been seeing a bit of sideboard play in Goblins. Splash in white, get access to Thalia, maybe Swords to Plowshares if they want it. A little interesting. I don't like the white myself because I feel like Stoneblade is one of Goblin's worst matchups, and I don't like the Thalia that much against it. It's obviously a good card, as we saw, but it's good because Maverick's creatures are generally going to be a lot better than Goblins. Prefer something more like the Black Splash for Cabal Therapy.
Yeah, and the
Strip those Batter Skulls out of their hand.
was the name of the 5-power guy? Prowl.
Earwig Squad.
Earwig Squad. That's one people have included that one a ton of times.
I have seen that one. It's an interesting choice.
Yeah, not sure if I approve of it, but I mean,
Yeah.
I think I prefer green because then you get access to Grip and Hooligan. Street Hooligans.
I mean, let's just go for the rest of the rainbow. Let's play Brainstorm Goblins, right? Like, let's just get serious.
What's the best blue goblin we can think of?
Blue
Brainstorm?
Goblin? Brainstorm's fine. I mean, you gotta hit the right goblins, you know? You got all those bullets, you can shuffle some back. Seems passable.
I mean, it seems kind of sweet to put 2 goblins on the top of your deck and then cast a Ringleader, right?
Seems pretty sweet to cast a Ringleader, right?
Yeah. All I'm saying is I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Man, nobody's ever tried Blue Goblins that I'm aware of. That's a challenge, people. Somebody play Blue Goblins. If you start off 2-0 at an open series with Blue Goblins, I will deck tech you. That's from me. It's a promise. I have to know. You're not allowed to trick me by hiding your Blue Goblins, but if you can pull it off.
People have played Squee in blue decks.
Squee pretty much is a blue card. Nobody does anything red with that guy. The possible exception of those old, back when Legacy was 1.5, like Bazaar of Baghdad, Fiery Temper, Wild Mongrel, the Madness deck. Very fun deck, but definitely just like tier 2 old Legacy deck.
Yeah, like, Rootwalla, go! And they'd be like, High Tide, kill you.
Interaction is overrated. Highly overrated. Have you ever cast a Violent Eruption in Legacy? Man. It's just as good as it was in Standard.
Violent Eruption was pretty good in Standard.
It was. It's exactly that good in Legacy. Alright, take 4. Please don't kill me.
We can just wild research with it, right?
Oh, wild research. That's a
Get down to
that's a nice
0
one.
cards in hand, start playing 6 mana, dealing 4, however we choose, all the time.
At these events,
Very easy.
we wind up playing Mental Magic every now and then, just chilling on the sides, and we have to make a lot of bans to make stuff like wild research not get really crazy.
I mean, you can just ban wild research.
We ban like all the tutors, ban anything that has anything to do with a graveyard, just nothing.
Wild research is a fun one, though.
For you guys who
Classic.
like to play prison style, get crazy with it. Wild research is a good one in Mental Magic. People miss on 2 in a red. There's so many good 2 in a reds though. You got Stone Ring,
Yeah,
Turf Wound, Soul
Turf
Tatar,
Wound.
Squee,
Yeah.
Wheel of Fortune. Woo! So many.
Yeah, the Turf Wound, then squee it back
Yep.
play is kind of the go-to.
One of the go-to strategies.
Sometimes they like mana guy, and then you get to do like the whole like Turf Wound return to squeeze zap you, and it's brutal. Or zap your guy.
Just gotta watch out for those disrupts and whatnot. They'll catch you.
I like Cycling Complicate. It's one of my favorites.
Cycling Complicate's a good one. You've also got Force Void for when your opponent has already cycled Complicate.
Alright, so a Noble Hierarch for Austin Fritz. And Joe just building up his mana here.
Just some lands. Nothing but lands. Noble Hierarch
Austin.
survives.
What does he have?
Austin's got a lot of lands too, doesn't he? Whoa.
Yeah, it looks like he's got
Looks like 3 duels and a plains.
and he's attacking, so I suppose he does not have... chose not to try to cast that knight on turn 2. Just I can't really interact with that much.
Yeah, but
So.
Austin might be in fear of something. It's hard to know what he's thinking at that kind of play.
Yeah, I mean, you can obviously make an argument for playing around removal spells.
He may be concerned about Perish. Maybe he just didn't want to immediately offer a 2-for-1 that would cripple his hand. His hand's just Thalia Knight, so if that Knight goes, he's all in on a Thalia. He can swing for 1, play the Thalia now, which will trip Joe up a little bit and give him a beater that can survive a Perish.
Yeah, does he have Thalia in hand?
I believe so. I believe his hand is Thalia, Knight, and then a bunch
Lands.
of lands. Yeah.
And you are
Yep.
correct.
Brainstorm in response.
And it doesn't look like he found anything that he could use to stop that Thalia.
Eh,
But he may have already had something in his hand.
I don't think he's too concerned with it.
Yeah, just gotta shuffle away 2 of the irrelevant cards in hand.
Looks like he threw back land and Snapcaster Mage there. That was what I thought I saw.
Oh wow, Joe is shuffling away Snapcasters. I can pretty much
Hand must
wager
be
dollar to
good.
donuts that Joe's probably gonna win this one.
You know, it's funny actually. We were watching during the Standard Open Top 8. One of the players, I watched him ponder 3 times, keep 3 times, and then lose the game. And I was like, man, I feel like that's not supposed to happen. you
Yeah, that's
know?
not really supposed to
one of those was probably a shuffle. It's one of
least
the things about those cards when you're throwing back the goods and you just get to pick everything. You should be picking the things that win. Searched up basic swamp here. That kind of also implies he has a potential for Perish. So he wants to make sure he has access to black. Or maybe he has a Liliana and wants to keep double black online.
Brainstorm.
There's that Relic. I have a feeling we're throwing back Relic of Progenitus for starters. Maybe something else. He probably assumes that Austin doesn't have a knight because Austin didn't play one. That devalues the Relic in his mind as well. Well, who knows? Maybe Joe's just a master and still has it.
And Liliana in hand for Joe Bernal.
Yeah, so that explains the swamp. That's probably the reason he wanted to make sure to get
Yeah,
an
let's
extra
make
one.
sure he has double black there. And if he does have a Perish in hand, does he?
I don't know. I can't see. It's got Plains. I think he has Plains, Jitte, Liliana you said you saw, and something else maybe.
So, Austin getting in for 3 now, this Thalia, thanks to Noble Hierarch's Exalted Trigger.
Yep.
Dropping Joe down to 15. Only 5 more attacks from that Thalia to take Joe out of this game.
Well, there's our knight.
Knight
This
of the
one.
Rock, right. the Reliquary is a good card.
It's playable, I would say, in that it can be played in decks legally.
Yeah, remember when we used to play? Remember when we used to play with Doran?
I didn't mind playing with Doran. I played with Doran in a Pro Tour. It's a sweet card.
I never did. I played with Wooly Thoktar at Nationals once.
Wooly Thoktar. Ooh.
He's the only person in Nationals playing with Wooly Thoktar.
I believe you.
Nobody else went that route.
Wooly Thoktar was the kind of card that I always wanted to play with and could never justify. So it just looks so sweet on the merits.
Doran, you know.
You're just like, sweet, undercosted fatty. Let's go. Engineered explosives, I think I just saw. Yep.
Yeah. And pretty diverse casting costs across Austin's board here.
Let's see what we can see. We got a Snapcaster, a Planes, and Engineered Explosives.
And if you're Austin here, the next turn with all these lands, if Joe lets that knight survive, is that gonna be something very bad? Is that a perish?
No.
No, it's an Engineered Explosives with 3 counters on it. How many counters? 3 counters.
3 counters.
Alright, so Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. A little bit of a shout out to Gerard there, in case you're watching.
Austin's probably going to kill that thing if he can, but I don't think he can. He drew another knight, I believe. So,
Yeah.
that's pretty much going to lock up what he's going to do here. I imagine he'll knight for a Wasteland to take Joe off blue mana.
Yeah.
He could attack, but it's not for very much, so it's better to just strand your opponent on 2 of their 3 colors. At least that's what it
attacking
seems.
for 5 and 3 here.
Yep. No, not huge.
Yeah, it's not really that big. Whereas the implications of wastelanding Joe's only blue source, definitely a bigger play in this game.
Fetches for Dryad Arbor. It's interesting. What's his game here, I wonder? It's an early fetch, like, he obviously can assume at this point that Joe doesn't currently have a Perish, because that would probably have been better than this Engineered Explosives. But at the same time, you kind of have to keep in mind that there are cards on top of Joe's deck still.
Yeah. Fresh ones at that. Brainstorm.
Oh, we're just sending. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I can appreciate this play. Drops Joe down to 8 with that attack.
Aggressive.
And depending on what's in his hand, and I think he does have another fetch land, that means Joe's dead next to the Engineered Explosives points being dead on board. But
That's the thing, like, it's still 3 attacks from this position, right? Like,
yeah.
that's kind of why I don't like it. If
Yeah,
Thalia was just attacking
right.
with him from 14, it's 5 attacks, so this made it 4 attacks, but your opponent gets to have blue mana for the remainder of the game.
I mean, Joe Brainstorm shuffled twice. You can't really be expecting the catch him off guard. I hope he doesn't have anything planned to be working.
Yeah. We're going to go ahead and pop our Engineered Explosives here. Knight of the Reliquary is gone from this world. Note that Joe went ahead and did that before letting his opponent untap. He wants to keep his blue mana.
It's a good idea to do it that way. Alright, so Thalia can come in for another 3 here. Perhaps more, depending on what Austin's draw step offered up. Austin Fritz. Taking over this turn's possibilities.
Goes ahead and uses Snapcaster Mage to block a Dryad Arbor.
Yep. Trade up.
You know, it's not always the glamorous plays that win the games. Ambush Viper's Fangs, just as sharp.
Joe dropping down to 6 here from that attack.
Austin probably expected something more like a Swords on his Thalia here, but doesn't mind having ensured he got through damage. None of Austin's creatures represent a lethal clock, although they're very, very close at this point.
I mean, next turn if Austin can attack unmolested, he will kill Joe, but that's not going to happen. As we pointed out, Joe has Brainstorm shuffled twice. There's no way he has nothing.
I don't know. That looks like a man who doesn't have a lot. Doing a little math.
It's
I think
like
he has.
confusing to me. How is that even possible?
Hey man, sometimes you don't have the crowds.
Oh man, you can't be playing all those discard spells in your Stoneblade deck.
What are we playing here? Lingering Souls. Okay. Well, our plan is block and come up with a new plan.
A reasonable plan. Be block and come up with a new plan.
At this point, if I'm Austin, I'm probably thinking stranding my opponent off blue seems pretty good when this is the best he can do. Also note that if he wastelands a land, Joe will have to peel both Perish and a land in order to perish, which is not humanly possible. Did the knight get blocked? Okay, during combat he's mazing that knight. Yep, that's going to be pretty bad for Joe.
Now Austin using a neat interaction there with Knight of the Reliquary and Mazavith. After the Knight of the Reliquary has already dealt its combat damage, you're still in the combat step, so you can use Mazavith, untap it, and get an activation out of it.
But no activation.
Interesting. You're waiting for the end step here.
Yeah, what did we have to do that's better? Does he maybe fear... I don't know what he fears. Does he have a way to stop Joe from going like Jete Equip? So that's like one of the few things I can think of him being scared of, but he's already gotten the maze and it's tapped, so
yeah,
I don't really know.
Yes. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think I really like just wasting Joe off his blue source here. Not just his blue source, also his fourth land to let him cast spells. Doesn't look like he has a fifth land to play and equip that Jete anyway, so we may have gotten away with it.
Alright. And Joe tanking a bit here. I think he may pay 3 to get an Umezawa's Jete onto the table. No, instead paying 4. Going to go ahead and...
Maybe that Liliana's coming down to kill a creature?
Maybe. Or maybe he's just going to play another EE for 3?
Yeah, you're right. Nope, you're wrong.
Who's right? Who's wrong? You never know.
Joe's not happy about this shit. One of the interesting things about this game is that Joe has remained vulnerable to Wasteland despite having searched to specifically avoid that. So maybe just from the outset he should have been grabbing duels, you know? The Wastelands are still going to hurt.
His mana, grabbing all these basics, and
his opponent's gotten
really
like,
been able to play around with Wasteland anyway.
10% of a Wasteland every time he grabs a basic or something, so it's definitely hurting Joe just to try and play around this card his opponent hasn't even gotten and played against him.
Joe decides to flash back the Lingering Souls. Seems like a nice solid play there.
Still on the block, figure it out later plan, and now Austin's knighting. I can't imagine he'll grab anything except for a Wasteland. Horizon Canopy is kind of defensible, but yep, alright, Wasteland. I'm sure he's thinking, you know, killing all of those lands seems like a good idea right about now.
Yeah, I would like to kill that Underground Sea.
Kill the Underground Sea, untap, attack, maze after damage, get that scrub land, leave our opponent who's clearly in bad shape in way worse shape.
Alright. Austin Fritz. Going to draw a...
Magic card.
Magic card, it's a Horizon Canopy. Not necessarily the magic card he wanted to draw, but the good thing about that magic card is that it will allow him to get another magic card.
It's true. It's like 2 magic cards. And really, we didn't even need a magic card in this game. We're pretty far ahead. I'm not sure what Joe can have at this juncture to really turn the board around.
Oh, I mean, he's definitely still in the game.
I don't know. Once he goes down to 2 lands, like, what's he peeling?
I guess the Thalia's still in play.
Yeah, with the
pretty rough
Thalia
for him.
there, it's just... He has to have, like, we know he doesn't have a parish or a 5th land, so he has to draw, like, all of the lands again and the parish, and he has to still be alive when he's done doing all of that. So we need, like, block blue source brainstorm or something, like.
And I think Austin should get that wasteland now.
I agree. Note that if you go ahead and destroy the scrubland now, you can safely play the Scavenging Ooze sitting in your hand.
And there will be absolutely no perishing happening next turn.
0 perish
if Austin decides to activate this knight right now.
Good evening, Magic.
Looks like that's what he's doing.
At this time, the StarCityGames.com sales would like to mention that they will be closing up shop at the end of the Swiss round.
Austin, intent on having all of the fun in this game, will be removing Joe's ability to have fun.
Yes. Austin's such a fun monger.
After which time we need to pack up and make our way back to Roanoke. Thank you so much for coming.
Joe with just a plains and a swamp left in play as lands.
Hope to see you soon.
Another Thalia for Austin.
Went ahead and used his floating mana to play the canopy, but declined to drop his Scavenging Ooze out there.
Surprising. I mean, his opponent is at 2 and has 2 blockers.
Yeah, I agree. So. Presenting lethal seems like a better plan here.
So Joe can fetch up a basic here.
Well, now we're cooking.
Well, let's see what Austin decides he's gonna
Joe
do.
passes the turn. He doesn't have any sleeves, but he might have a trick. These two.
Same 2 as always, coming in the red zone. Joe, just gonna
I'll live.
Jump both. Decides he's gonna stay at 2 here. And
How did Austin draw? It seemed to imply like something over block. Maybe he drew a swords and was like, oh, I guess I should have got that guy. What's that?
Thalia.
Nope. Well, he had the Thalia last turn, right? It looks like another land, I think.
Yeah, we flooded this game for Austin.
Joe falling to 1. Not much different from 2, considering his position. You know, Zendikar basics are pretty. I'll give him that.
Yeah, they look very nice.
That particular Zendikar basic, I believe, is also the highest selling Zendikar Island.
Is it the Cup?
Nope. Cup is second, if I remember correctly, on Star City Games. Every now and then, you know, you look at statistics like this for no real reason other than you're at work and it's somewhere near your desk. It's one of my favorites. I do like the Cup, though. Those are the 2 good ones, I think. The 2 best ones, I should say. And all of them are actually pretty good.
I like Zendikar Forests.
Zendikar Forests are good. I really like the dark one with the spiky trees. I don't like the brighter green with all the winding trees up in this one. That one's not really my thing. That's not how trees look.
Another plane.
Yeah. Okay, that's not how I want trees to look.
Fair enough. Joe Bernal playing the Dark Confidant when at 1 life.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is time in the round.
As moves go, it's a bold one.
5 additional turns. If you have an extension, please make your judge aware.
We once again have 2 blockers for our opponent's attacks. At this point, I really think Austin should have just dropped one of those guys.
Barbarian Ring, you're dead.
Quite a trickster. While Bob is legendary, he cannot be bounced by Caracas, so we downgraded our Savannah into a forest to thin our deck and grow our knight. The original full art land, unhinged over here.
So what do you think? You think he passed the turn? No. He definitely bashed the both.
I don't know, man. That's maybe he wants to allow Joe the honorable death on SCG Live. Nope, no honorable deaths here. Predictably, Joe will block.
Yep. Joe gonna bin both those guys. Austin accruing lots of card advantage just by doing a whole bunch of nothing.
Joe's been in the double abyss for a long time here, actually, if you think about it.
And Joe packs it in. Austin Fritz able to take that match
Yep.
down. And it's looking like he's probably going to be in the top 8 of this tournament. Well done, Austin. And Joe's Esper deck just unable to stand up to the hate. And there's Howie in the background saying, hey, man, I'm sorry to make
He's
it.
like, yeah, I
I did.
should have done this, I should have done this. Yeah.